neutral corner. In the neutral corner.
3, 4.
Hey guys, welcome in the neutral corner. Man, what a good little series of fights last night. Decent little fight card. Amanda Nunes, the Lioness, retiring from MMA. I kind of saw it coming, if I had to be completely honest. As I said in my last episode, motivation was going to be the factor in many things on Amanda Nunes' performance, and many things are factors towards motivation. Money, fame, legacy. We went in depth about legacy. Amanda has cemented her legacy as the most dominant women's champion ever in both featherweight and bantamweight. But last night, as I predicted, a very motivated Amanda Nunes came in. She looked in great shape. She looked physically better than any time I've ever seen her. She looked muscular. She looked like she was on a mission. And she fought Irene Aldana, who was a very big threat to her. But one of the things, kind of like John Jones, kind of like Conor McGregor, one of the things that happens to these opponents is the mental warfare. They get scared, for the lack of a better term, but they get in their head. They get almost too defensive. And Irene Aldana came out with her hands covering her face. And when your hands are attached to your head that way, you can't throw punches. Not very fast. You're not going to be able to counter very well. Everything counts on being loose, on being fluid, on being, as Bruce Lee said, like water, right? Like you pour water in cup, it becomes the cup. You pour water in the bowl, it becomes the bowl. You have to be water. And unfortunately, Aldana, from the moment the bell rang, was so shelled up and so worried about the power and the speed of Amanda Nunes that she did herself a disservice. I feel like if she would have went in there and fought her heart out and fought like she was fighting for a championship, and maybe not been so, intimidated, might be the better word, intimidated by Amanda Nunes, she probably would have done better. The few punches she did land on Amanda, they landed. At the end of the fight, Amanda's face, she had bloody, she was little strawberries on her. It doesn't come from someone who doesn't know how to punch, especially when she gets punched so few. I mean, at one point, the significant strikes were absurd, but 142 significant strikes landed for Amanda Nunes, only to 41 strikes landed for Aldana. Total strikes, 196 total strikes landed for Amanda Nunes versus Irene Aldana's 57. But in those 57 punches, strikes, knees to the body, kicks, stuff like that, but in those 57 total strikes, she had enough pop to bust Amanda up a little bit. And had she had really, truly believed in herself and not shelled up so hard, because you got to think about it. When you're shelling up and your hands are over your face, your muscles, they're in a different position. Everything, your body language, your body mechanics, everything, you don't punch that way. You punch shooting from the hip. You punch shooting from the shoulder. But when you have your hands, literally palms of your hands on your eyes, basically, you're not able to, the punch doesn't come as quickly as it could. So, Amanda was throwing some strikes, and one of those things that, because the girl was covering, not as many of those strikes landed flush, but also because the girl, Irene Aldana, was covering, she didn't have the speed. Her muscles weren't relaxed because you have to tense up when you block. You have to tense up when you are trying to roll with these punches. It seems as if she just doesn't. You don't have that. Your body just doesn't have that elasticity when it's engaged like that. You can still counter, but your timing is different because, as I said, you're so tight from wanting to absorb that. And my girlfriend Taylor last night was bummed. She was like, "Oh, why? Like, why is she, retiring? What about Juliana Pena?" And I told her, I said, "Well, she hasn't had any competition really, like none. She's beat the shit out of everybody, just about." And she says, "Well, what about Juliana Pena?" And the loss to Pena came from, I feel like, an unmotivated Amanda, came from someone who she could have been dealing with an injury as well. Someone who didn't want to be there, and that was the result. And then she came back and took it back from Juliana Pena, dominantly, like a dominant performance. And so I don't think Pena is going to have anything for her in this third fight. They were supposed to fight again last night, but Pena had an injury, and truth be told, it wouldn't have went much different than this did last night. So congratulations to Amanda on an amazing career. The only double champ that it was still currently a double champion, defending both championships. There will never be another female fighter like Amanda Nunes. She is hands down the greatest woman fighter of all time. So congratulations to her. She's had a very long, illustrious career. It's time for her to, training takes a lot out of you. Takes a lot out of your day, takes a lot out of your life, takes a lot physically, mentally, emotionally. And so now it's time for her to finally be there for her family in all those ways. So congratulations to her, man. One of the best ever. The co-main event of the night, as I, also alluded to, that I thought who was going to win. To be fair, I didn't know a whole lot about Beneil Dariush. I've watched a couple of fights, but he's never done anything or had any performances that have made me go, holy cow, this guy is the next guy. This guy is going to beat Islam. This guy is going to beat Poirier. This guy is going to beat Gaethje. I spoke a little bit on Oliveira's heart, so to speak, or the fact that sometimes I feel like when the going gets really tough, that Oliveira might quit. And I know that sounds like an insult. To me, it's something that's obvious because it's natural. That's a human instinct, is not to get in there and fist fight a grown ass man who is also trained to kill you. When you're down and out and things are hurting and you don't know if you can go anymore, it's natural for your body to want to be like, well, fuck this, I'm out. Like, let's not do this. And so there is a lot of that. But I will say that's one of the most exciting things about Charles Oliveira and like watching him fight is you don't know what Charles is going to show up. And you don't know if the Charles that showed up last night is going to show up, or the Charles that showed up to fight Poirier, or the Charles that showed up to fight Gaethje, or the Charles that showed up to fight Chandler, or if the one that fought Islam is going to show up. It almost seems like when he fought Islam, he was almost overtaken. Really weird considering the people that he's fought, but it just seemed like he was overwhelmed by Islam and he didn't want to be in there. Well, last night he did. Okay, last night he went in there and he fought Beneil Dariush, and he took it to him. And as a matter of fact, this is what I told my friend Chase was over. Taylor, we were watching the fights last night, And I'm sitting there thinking, or I was explaining to them that, like, okay, when he fought Gaethje, when he fought Poirier, when he fought Chandler, he had the advantage on the ground as far as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu goes. Oliveira had the advantage, so, you know, he stood up with him and was able to do well enough in that round to drag them down to the ground to get the submission victory. Well, this time I told him that Beneil Dariush is better, or is just as good, if not better, at jiu-jitsu than Charles Oliveira. And Oliveira, I feel like, kind of felt the same sentiment. That was the narrative coming in, but obviously he didn't feel that way because he invited Dariush to the ground. You know what I mean? Like he's the one that was like, "Come on, bro, let's do it," and they just grappled. You know what I mean? And showed Beneil that, like, hey, I'm not scared of you. I'm not scared of your grappling. Like, I am the best in the world. I think Oliveira needs to fight Makhachev again and win. Okay, and then Volk can fight Oliveira. Bam, that is the fight to have right there. And then I think Volkanovski can beat Oliveira. Yeah, that would be a good one too. That'd be a great fight. I'm totally down. There's a plane going over right now. If you cannot hear it, if you can, I'm very sorry. You know, this is my back porch. It's basically as best I can do. But the plane noise is killing me right now. I don't just have a pause button here. Real quick rundown. Charles Oliveira landed 37 out of 47 total strikes. He had a 78.7% strike rate. Like, that's insane. You know, accuracy. Beneil threw 32 strikes, so still pretty freaking close out of 57, so 54%. Both of these guys were over 50% of their total strikes landed. That's another thing, too. For as good as Oliveira is, he is still very hittable, and he is still very, like, that like, it's kind of like old school GSP, right? That was one of those things that was like, he's so beatable. Like, how can you guys not beat him? But then no one can beat him. Just kind of interesting, you know what I mean? It makes it more of an emotional roller coaster of a fight. The fight before that. Now we're getting into people I don't really know. So these are going to be a lot quicker. But what was that dude's name? I can't even remember his name that he fought last night. He fought Adam Fugit or whatever. His name started with an M. It's not on here on the ESPN app, but I definitely called it to win. Like, I knew that something about the way when a person walks out to the ring, and this isn't an every time thing, but a lot of times you can see in their eyes, like, this dude's going to be the one to win. Like, this is the dude. And there was something about this fight in which I really felt that. You know what I mean? I really, really felt that. But we had a win by submission in the first minute of the second round. Was not a bad fight. Canadian won, so that's good. Hometown, home country, home field advantage. But I don't really know a whole lot about background about either fighter or that fight. I just know that it was okay. But the next fight, the fight that was before that, Dan Ige versus Nate Landwehr, man, that was a pretty decent fight. I called for Dan Ige to win, and he did by decision, landing 88 out of 184 total strikes, so 47% of his total strikes. He landed to 74 of his opponents. However, all the strikes landed by his opponent were significant strikes, as well as Dan's. Like, they don't throw jabs. These are not jabbers. In case you didn't know, the UFC goes by So boxing does the same thing. They just don't call it significant strikes. They call it power punches. But anything other than a jab is a significant strike, pretty much. Anything other than a jab is a power punch. Pretty much is usually how they do that. But Danny Ige looked great. Dropped Nate twice. Each time in like the last 15 seconds of the round. Both of the times with the same punch, left hook that came right after a right hand. So that was really cool to see that, like, small things, small adjustments make the difference. One of my favorite things to see, or one of the things that is preached so much that is hard, that like you don't always see, is punches and bunches, right? They always preach punches and bunches, punches and bunches. Oh, he's only throwing one shot at a time now, blah, 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 blah. These are things that you hear, right? That maybe you don't necessarily understand. Not saying that you don't understand things, but maybe you're like, what significance does that have, or what does that mean? So what Ige would do is he would set it up by throwing a right-handed punch in which the guy would defend it. But because the guy defended it, he left it himself open for the second punch. If you just throw the right hand and he defends it, well, you're still at a stalemate. But if you throw the right hand, left hook, right hand, leg kick, something's going to land. And 9 times out of 10, maybe not that, 7 times out of 10, it's going to land, and it's going to land in a spot where they don't necessarily see it coming, and it's going to be more devastating. That is, that's the whole purpose of combination punching. You have to sacrifice a few punches are going to get blocked or slipped, because you know that he's either going to block or slip into an oncoming punch that he doesn't necessarily see, or she. And then the opening fight of the night, Marc-Andre fought Eric Anders. That was actually a pretty decent fight. I thought Eric might have won a couple of rounds. It was a decision for Marc-Andre, but it was just a decent, scrappy fight. I kind of had the feeling that Mark was going to win coming out, just like I said. Again, his face, his mentality, his aura, his whole vibe was, I'm just about to go in there and crush somebody. And Eric Anders was very calm about it. But, Eric Anders is a brawler, so you're always in a fight anytime you fight Eric. And so that's kind of the thing. It was kind of a close fight. But brawling will only take you so far. There is a point where you have to be a thinking point setup fighter. And it just alludes to the fact that there are levels to this, But I thought that was a good fight. Fight of the night so far, not really sure. I do not. Oh, here we go. Preliminary card. Chris Curtis, that no contest, the headbutt to the eye. That's very interesting. A headbutt straight to the eye. Usually, I don't really know what happens. He said he couldn't see, so I don't know if he fractured his orbital or what. But that was very unfortunate, for sure. Let's see who else. Oh yeah, bantamweight. Oh, Faraz Sahabi's, I guess it's his brother. He won. Again with combination punches. A guy would throw a kick. He threw an overhand right, which is the normal counter to a kick. And the guy got out of the way of it, but he threw a looping left hook afterwards, which followed up. And the guy sat back down thinking he was in the safe zone, when in reality, there was a left hook coming to separate him from his consciousness. Like I said, hands up at all times, protect yourself at all times. Even after you throw a strike, you have to be ready for one coming back. That's just the name of the game. But yeah, man, I'm kind of going to leave it there. There's nothing else to really get into. Decent night of fights. I'm excited for what's to come. Let's see. Let's look up here. 290. That 290 fight card. Yeah, buddy. So the next fight card is July 8th for pay-per-view. Alexander Volkanovski is going to be fighting Yair Rodriguez. That right there is I pick Volk to win as long as Volk is focused on Yair and not focused on Makhachev. Or even, hey, be focused on Makhachev, but use Yair as your scapegoat. Yair is tricky. You know, he's got these fancy kicks and he's got fancy footwork, and if Volk doesn't mind his P's and Q's, it's definitely going to be a tough night. But Volkanovski's the best fighter in the world. It's not named John Jones. And, yeah, so that's the next one. I think Volk takes it. I think Volk finishes him. Co-main event, Brandon Moreno putting on his flyweight title against Alexandre, what was that? I don't even know how to do his last name. So don't know anything about Alexandre. Brandon Moreno, fun to watch fight. You know, everybody loves him. Mexican superstar, champion. Robert Whittaker versus Dricus Du Plessis. Du Plessis talks a lot of shit, so I really hope Whittaker, who I've been a fan of from day one, knocks him the fuck out. Like, man, I would love for Robert Whittaker to get another crack at the title, but Izzy's done shut him down twice. It's gonna be kind of hard. Jalen Turner versus Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker's probably on the chopping block. I feel like he fights all the toughest names, so he hasn't had a big win in quite a while. So Jalen Turner would be a good turn in the right direction for him. But Jalen is a tough, athletic dude. That's a tough task for Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker's really gonna have to rely on his experience and his fight IQ. And then the card opener, the curtain jerker, is Bo Hype Train Nickel versus Trayshawn Ultimate Fighter winner Gore. Trayshawn got hurt, so I don't believe he actually won the Ultimate Fighter, but he would have had he not gotten hurt. He was knocking everybody out. This is gonna be a good test for him. Trayshawn doesn't have terrible wrestling. Bo's got an amazing wrestling. Bo doesn't have terrible striking, and Trayshawn's got decent striking. So it's a good, tough first fight. It's a name that the casuals and just the mainstream right now is familiar with, simply because it was only like 1 or 2 seasons ago that this guy was on the Ultimate Fighter. But it's not a name at middleweight like Vitor Belfort that Bo Nickel's not ready for yet. It's a great stepping stone. It's a great test to see, like, okay, man, you're 4-0, you're trying to be in the UFC, you're on the main card, let's see what you got. So it's a good little test, a good little showing out there for Bo Nickel. Then on the prelim card, the main event, the featured fight on the prelim is Robbie Lawler. I think it's his retirement fight, fighting Nico Price, another brawler. This one worries me just because Nico's a brawler. Robbie's been a little chinny lately, but Robbie's always been one of my number one favorites of all time. So I will be siding with Robbie Lawler. But if he's not careful, Nico's no joke at all. Let's see. Sean Brady's fighting Jack Della Mandalina. Yeah, whoever that is. But great night of fights coming up for UFC 290. Super excited, man. We've got a bunch of weeks of fights. I believe there's let's see. Yeah, there's Vittori's fighting Cantonier next week, and then after that we got Josh Emmett versus Ila Topuria, and then after that we've got Sean Strickland versus Magomedov, which we know Sean Strickland's going to lose that because this guy's from Dagestan. His name ends in Ov. If their name ends in Dov, bro, run. That's all I gotta say. But yeah, I'm gonna leave you with it right there. I appreciate you guys listening. Thank you so much. What a great night of fights. And I want to thank all my sponsors, Sending Tattoo Shop, the Burger Box. If you want tattoos or you want some food that is great and ran by awesome locals, go give them a shout out. Go give them a look. Also, hit up my boys on the Some People Suck podcast. They're trying to grow their podcast as big as mine. And if you would, just go out there, and if they could get every listener that I got, they would blow up tremendously. I'm just kidding, but seriously, go see Some People Suck. They're awesome. I've been on there many times. They're really good friends of the shows. They're huge around this area, so you should definitely go give them a listen to. They cover all sorts of different topics, not just MMA centered, but one of their hosts is a high level purple belt, if not a brown belt already. Fucking knows a lot about jiu-jitsu, and it's just a really cool thing to listen to. They've got so many different avenues there that they go down and explore. And Larry Downs Junior Plumbing for all your plumbing needs and everything. We're a high quality plumbing company, and we really try to work with the customer and while doing the best work around. And then I want to thank Penelope Faye Marie Designs for making some baby clothes for my sweet Penelope and some awesome custom rompers. Go give them a look at Penelope Faye Marie Designs. It's awesome. They take custom work. They make rompers for children. They make t-shirts, custom t-shirts, things like that. So give them a look on Etsy. And really, that's all I have left. This has been In the Neutral Corner with RJ Summerlin. Thank you guys so much. Y'all have a safe weekend. Godspeed.